everybody, and welcome back to the Stamperia Ooh La La mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. As a reminder, all of the products that I am using from the Ooh La La collection are linked in the description box below to the Scrap and Create website, so you can just go ahead and click on those links to purchase all of these products to follow along with the tutorial. So let's get started. In today's tutorial, we're going to finish up the final page in the album, so we are working on the back of page 4. I have a 3-inch piece of my ribbon, and I've marked the center of my tab, or my first flap, and I'm going to place my ribbon as a pull tab, making sure it doesn't hang over the edge, just like I have been doing with the previous ones we've placed. From the 12 by 12 paper, I cut this card and I had to trim it down a little bit. So I trimmed off the brown edge here, and then it's 5 1/4 inches, and I've just trimmed it to the size that it is. I believe it's 3 1/2 inches. Yep, so it's 3 1/2 by 5 1/4. And then I've rounded the 2 corners on the right-hand side, and I'm going to place this here on the front of my flap. Once this piece is on the flap, I'm going to open up and place a magnet down here on the flap below it. And this magnet is about 1 1/4 inches from the center to the edge of the page, and then 1 3/8 of an inch from the center to the top of that flap. And then I'm going to take a coordinating magnet and attach it here to the back side of this flap. To cover the magnet over here, I've cut this card from the 12 by 12 papers, but I'm going to be using this side to make it a journaling spot. So this is 3 1/2 by 5 1/4, and I've rounded the 2 left-hand corners. This will be placed right here over this magnet. Then I've taken this card from the 12 by 12 papers, and all I did was cut around the outer edge, and then I've rounded the 2 left-hand corners and inked my edges. This one's going to go on the front of this flap. And then I have this one, did the same thing, cut on the outer edges, but I rounded the 2 corners on the right-hand side. This one's going to go here and cover this magnet. Next, we're going to focus on the inside of these flaps. So I have 2 pieces of my lighter blue cardstock. They are 4 1/4 by 3 1/2. I'm going to place one here, right next to that score line. And then I'm going to place the other piece here, right next to the score line. From this 12 by 12 paper, I've cut from the top portion 1 3/8 by 7 inches. And then I've cut this into 2 pieces that measure 1 3/8 by 3 1/2 inches. They were like this. I've rounded the top to the right-hand corners on one piece for here. And then I've rounded the left-hand corners on this piece for over here. And I'm going to place these right up against that blue paper. Next, I'm going to add some embellishments. So for the first one, I have this from the collectibles, and I'm going to place her down here. And since she is over top the photo mat there, I'm not going to adhere her down. I'm only going to adhere the right side of this down. So the majority of her, but not her elbow or the edge of her hair and face. So I'm just going to adhere this right there. It covers most of that paper, and it's right past the edge, so you will see just a little tiny bit of the pink cardstock, and then the photo will slip right behind there. Now for this one, I'm going to layer up a few pieces. So I have this from the collectibles first that I'm going to place up here at the top. Then I have these suitcases from the collectibles that I'm going to place down here. And then I have the little purse that I'm going to place here. So I'm going to be spreading these out. I don't like the look of that right at the edge, so I'm going to put this one right here. So the majority of this suitcase piece is going to be adhered down. So I'll just add my adhesive first. And then I'm going to place this here, right like that. And then with this one, I'm going to have it down here. So about half of the pink suitcase and a little bit of the blue. So I've got my adhesive down here and across the bottom. And then I'll place it here. And then for this one, I'm going to adhere this portion down and just a little bit onto my suitcase, like that. So now this is all open for that photo to slide behind. Now for the base of the page, I've taken this 12 by 12. I've cut a 1 3/4 inch strip off. I will use this later. Then I've cut this to 5 3/4. Then I cut this to 9 1/2. I've inked my edges and I'm going to adhere this to the base of my page. Once my background paper's on, I'm going to make a tuck spot for my photo mat. So I have this, it is the adhesive paper cutout. I'm going to be placing this here and I'm going to place the girl right on the front of it. But again, I want to make sure that she isn't seen whenever my pages or my flaps are closed, and I want her just to be on the edge of this. So I'm going to remove her and I'm just going to mark where I want this to be, and I'm only going to be removing the backing off of this little portion. So I'm going to first peel up this corner and then just very carefully peel off a little bit of the backing paper and leave the rest on. Then I'm going to place this back where I had it marked and adhere that corner down. Now I'm going to take her, once I have it lined up where I want her, I'm going to place some adhesive on there for her head, and then I'm going to put a little bit on her back and the bottom of her skirt and the tips of her feet. Then I'm going to set her down, making sure that you cannot see her. Actually, I need to lift up on her. I need her back to not be fully glued down. So I'm going to make sure that her skirt is glued down, but not her back. So I'm just going to leave this here for a little while, just until that glue dries. So when you go to put yours down, don't put any adhesive down here because that photo mat needs to tuck underneath there. I am going to be placing this piece on the page as well. So I'm just putting some adhesive on the top and the left side, and I'm going to place this under here like this. Then maybe she can catch on there and I don't have to worry about that adhesive that I accidentally put on her catching on the page. There we go. I'm going to move this out of the way for now and bring in the photo mat. So I've got one of the pieces of the darker blue paper, 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. Then I have fussy cut this, and this was one of those pieces. It was that strip that we cut off the paper. I just fussy cut, I believe it was the top one. And I'm going to place this here at the top of my mat. And then I have this from the collectibles that I'm going to be placing here on the side of my mat, overlapping. So it's going to be underneath of this one, but over the rest of it. So I'm just going to take my adhesive and apply a thin line just across the top of my mat. And then adhere the piece to that. And then here, I'm going to add my adhesive on top of these pieces. There we go, and place that like this. Then I have this little piece from the collectibles as well. And I have to decide if I want it to be under or over, and I think I'm going to put it under, so I'm going to put my adhesive on the tip and then place this here. Now for the back side, I'm going to flip this over and just place this. I think I'm just going to place it here at the top, so I'm going to put a line of adhesive and adhere this there. So then this I'm going to place here in my tuck spot. Then I will close my flaps and we're going to decorate this. I've taken this piece, and this piece was up here on this part of the 12 by 12 paper. So I've just fussy cut around it, and then I cut it off at this darker pink flower. There was a couple of extra flowers there, but I wanted it to be a little shorter. I'm going to place this here right on this edge. So I'm just going to place some adhesive here along the paper. And then place this down right on the edge of my flap. I have this from my adhesive paper cutouts. I'm going to put it right over top of this image. It's not an exact fit, and that's okay. I am going to have just the tip sticking up. So I'm going to take all of my backing off except for that tip portion that will need to stay on. And then I'm going to place this right over top the Eiffel Tower on the page. And now I have these pieces. So first, this piece, forgot to ink these edges. I'm going to do that really quickly. This piece, the compass, I'm going to place here. And then these are all chipboard pieces, and I'm going to place those here over top of my Eiffel Tower. So I'm going to first add my blue piece right where that blue flower is, and then my pink flower where that pink flower is on the page. And then I'm going to take my leaves and place them underneath my chipboard pieces. So I'm going to just lay these down like that. Now, if you want, you can place flowers here. You can place some flowers around this flap. You can place some flowers here. I do think I'm going to place a flower here as well, just to finish off my page. I'm going to take this piece. I'm not sure which paper collection this is from. It doesn't look like it's the collectibles, but honestly, at this point, I am not sure where all these pieces have come from anymore. I've cut so many pieces out. I'm gonna put this one here, and I'm gonna make sure that when this is popped up, it doesn't get hit by that top flap. And then on the inside of this one, I'm going to place these pieces here. So these are the adhesive paper cutouts. So I'm just going to remove the backing first and then layer these up over top of those flowers that are already on the page. Once these are on, we'll go ahead and close this flap, and we are finished with the back of page 4 in this tutorial as well. If you're just joining the tutorial series, all of the products that I'm using from the Stamperia Ooh La La collection are linked in the description box below, so you can click on those, go to the Scrap and Create website, pick up your products, and follow along in the tutorial. Stay tuned for the next tutorial where we're going to be putting all the pages in the album and finishing up. See you in the next tutorial.